Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Planning Advisory Committee meeting for Tuesday, January 9th. At this time, it's the first meeting of the calendar year. We need to elect a chairperson and a vice chairperson. So with that being, does anyone wish to nominate a PAC member for chairperson for the 2024 calendar year? Mr. Preston.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Darren Lamont for chairman.
Can I have a seconder on that, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that. Mark here.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other nominations for chairman for the 2024 calendar year? Third and final time, are there any further nominations for the chairman of the PAC committee for 2024? With that being, all those in favor? We'll close the nominations. Okay. With that, can we have all those in favor for Darren Lamont to be voted in for chairperson for the 2024 year? That motion's carried unanimously. With that, I'll accept that chairman's position, and we'll put up our signs, I guess, as a protocol. They can go up now. At this time, due to that, I'd like to put a nomination. We need a call for a vice chairman. Does anyone wish to nominate a PAC member for vice chair for 2024? Brenda?
I nominate Darren Bishop.
Thank you. I have a seconder for that.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kendall. Are there any further nominations for vice chair for 2024? Third and final time, are there any nominations for vice chair for 2024? With that, we'll close the nominations. And can we have a vote on that, please? Thank you. The motion's carried unanimously, 6-0. Congratulations, Mr. Bishop, on the vice chair for 2024. With that being, we'll move on to item 2. Can I have approval of the agenda, please? Mr. Preston.
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that? Oh, Mark.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we have a vote on that, please?
Who's that?
Mark Guest.
Okay.
Thank you. That motion's been carried unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 3, disclosures of interest. No disclosures of interest. We'll move on to item 4, approval of previous minutes. Are there any amendments to the previous minutes? Mr. Preston.
Mr. Chairman, item 7.2, item 1 should have included well driller license in the province of New Brunswick. I can get the particulars for Jennifer after the meeting. And item 2 should have been the contractor with regards to the sewage also was to be a licensed contractor for the province, recognized in the province of New Brunswick. Those conditions were added at the time of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. With that being, everyone, can I have a motion to make that amendment and approve the minutes, please? Mr. Bishop.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder on that? Kendall?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we vote on the motion, please? To make the adjustment and approve the previous minutes. That motion's carried unanimously. Item 5, business arising from minutes. Can I have a motion to receive and file, please?
Don't have to approve the amended minutes.
We did approve the amended minutes, didn't we?
Oh, just the amendment.
Okay, yeah. We'll do both, okay? I guess we'll take a motion to approve the amended minutes, not just for the amending party. Mr. Bishop?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconder, Mr. Guest?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we vote on the approval of the amended minutes? You already got
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that previous vote would be the approval of.
the amended minutes, okay, so we have that. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. We'll move on to item 5. Business arising from minutes. Can we have a motion to receive and file? Mr. Preston.
Mr. Chairman, question. Because we amended the amendments, does this affect the business arising from the amendments? Because the decision will not be correct on item 7 point. With additions, okay. I'll make the motion that we accept the business arising from the minutes, recognizing that the minutes were amended previously.
Thank you, Brent. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Kendall?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Go on to item 6, unfinished. Yep. Oh, sorry, you got to vote on that. Geez, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Can we vote on the business arising from minutes, please? Huh? No. That motion's carried unanimously. That being, we'll move on to item 6, unfinished business, 6A, 154 Millennium Drive. I believe that's been pushed to a further date. Jennifer?
There's been a request by the landowner to withdraw the application at this time, Mr. Chair. So there should be a motion to remove the item from the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can we have a motion to approve the removal of that item from the agenda, please? Mr. Preston.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that item 6A be removed from today's agenda and further agendas at the request of the applicant.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder on that? Mark?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we have a vote to remove that item from the agenda at the request of the applicant? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. With that being, we'll move on to item 7A. Item 7A is new business. And the first item on that list is 20 Millennium Drive, PID 173690. Could the applicant please state their name for the record? I believe that applicant's online for that one. Are they here?
Good
They're
evening,
online?
Chair. Mr. Chair, it's Heather Hansen from Shanix, Vice President of Strategy and Brand.
Thank you. We're going to get Jennifer to introduce that item for us. Thank you, Heather.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. The application before you is to amend a developer's agreement that is under Section 39, which means that it happened as a result of a rezoning of the property. Now, it did happen years ago. However, we do have to bring this up whenever there's a change. So we would like to add the use of daycare to the development agreement, which PAC made as one of the conditions as their approval. I believe it was in November for the daycare use. So that what is before you this evening is to amend that developer's agreement and to provide council your comments to whether you support this amendment or not. We did receive one letter of concern. I believe it made your package. However, I didn't make comment about it in my staff report, so if you would allow me. The person submitted the letter was concerned that this may open up an opportunity for a big box store to come into this area. I can confirm that that would not be a permitted use on the current zoning of the land, and any change to that land would have to go through a very detailed process similar to this. So that is not a concern of staff. They wanted to understand how long the lease was going to be with the YMCA. That is something that the town has no authority over, so it's not something that I would feel comfortable making a request about. And there was also a concern that the notification was received with very little time, but staff can assure the committee that these notices were sent out early with consideration given to the Christmas holiday. So with that, I would like to just hand it back over to you, Mr. Chair, and ask that the committee support this decision in amending the development agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Ms. Hanson, you would have received the same package we did in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or the public asking you some questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we don't have any comments. Certainly appreciate the neighbor expressing concern, but as most of you probably know, this is a senior living development, and that's the that is the business, the operations that we run. This extra premise or building on our property, we're very happily working with the YMCA to make what is a current vacant space on the second floor of the property available for childcare spaces for the community. So we also see some really nice alignment between YMCA and ourselves as operators of seniors living communities, seeing some intergenerational opportunities and engagement. And I just think overall, just helping the community at large. Next week, of course, I plan to be in person at the public hearing at council to certainly answer any questions there. But if the committee has any questions for me tonight, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? None being, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Mr. Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before the motion that the PAC support the council in the amendment of the development agreement for 20 Millennium Drive, PID 173690, subject to the following term and condition. One, that the amended development agreement be registered against the property with Service New Brunswick upon execution of the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Guest. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Brenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any debate on that motion? None being, can we have a vote, please? That motion's carried unanimously. Heather, in 5 to 7 business days, you have a letter in the mail with the support from council. And best of luck there next week with the public hearing on that, and best of luck with the daycare.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Next item on our list is 26 Pettingill Road. Could the applicant please come up to the podium and state their name for the record? And we'll get Jennifer to introduce that, but go ahead, please.
Sure. Rebecca Logan on behalf of Bright Light Fitness Studio.
Okay, thank you.
Anthony Logan.
Thank you. Jennifer, you wanted to introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The application before you is for discretionary use at 26 Pettingill Road. They would like to operate a fitness club. A club and fraternal use is permitted in the central commercial zone, but as a discretionary use to allow the committee an opportunity to provide any terms and conditions they may see as reasonable. The lot is zoned as central commercial, and the intent is to operate a fitness club. This would be not a drop-in center. They would be scheduled, and the hours of operation 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. with 6 classes throughout the day. And then on the weekend, limited hours, an hour in the morning from 10 to 11 and 7 till 8 on Sunday evenings for personal training. As a discretionary use, it does require a review of the PAC. Notifications were sent out to neighboring properties within 100 meters. At the time of the writing of the report, we received one concern. And that concern was regarding the noise that was coming from 26 Pettingill Road, but from a different operation, however, it's very similar in nature. This particular operation has not yet been before the PAC. Staff has been in touch with them over the last few days and is expecting an application in the very immediate future. However, with all things considered with the concern, staff is recommending that some soundproofing be included as part of one of the conditions. I'm open for any questions, Mr.
Thank you, Jennifer. You guys would have received the same application in the mail. Anything you'd like to discuss prior to members of PAC or the public asking you any questions?
Yes, if we could briefly just touch on the sound system
Can
because
you come up to the podium a little bit? Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies. Speak on the sound system. We did read through the thread of emails that had come from the concern with regards to another business operating at 26 Pettingill. And in terms of noise level anticipated from our business venture, I can advise the board that it would be significantly less. We are looking to have one speaker at the front, and the type of classes I'm looking to be offering within the fitness space are not all big high energy. Like I'm looking to have yoga, Pilates, some other cardio, fitness, some strength training classes, things of that nature. So I need to be able to speak and instruct during the classes. So I do require a level of sound so that I can communicate with the individuals that I'm teaching. So there is that I would like to, but of course, any type of soundproofing that is required, we will undertake to ensure that we're not causing any disruptions to neighboring communities.
Okay, thank you. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Brenda?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming to try to get that in place, not putting it in it, just starting it up. Anyway, is there a way that you can use your music through Bluetooth so they have headphones and you're speaking and they can hear you or the music, but it's not bothering the neighbors?
Be really, really difficult for everybody to have in doing any type of hit or anything else. I feel like that could be a major distraction, and I know I may need to have some type of system to speak to the group, but I think that would be I work in a fitness facility now and teach classes, and I don't think that would work. Yeah.
No, that's
Be
fine.
honest,
It's just an
yeah.
idea. But you have not caused a problem, so we'll
No,
wait.
no.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Brenda. Any other members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Guest?
I have a question for staff, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Are there any guidelines around what are acceptable noise levels? Just thinking through this, like if an assessment is done on the increase of the sound levels, like what benchmark are they measuring against to determine if soundproofing is required?
There's nothing in our bylaw really that gives us any number. It just identifies sound, dust, vibrations, etc. That they shouldn't be impacting neighboring neighbors. So unfortunately, there isn't a number that I can use for a benchmark.
Thanks, Jennifer. Mr. Bishop?
What about parking? I know that there's normally required spaces for parking, but I know the other business that's there, I drive by it and I see it, the parking lot's packed. So is there enough parking at that facility? I guess I would ask that to Jennifer, to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. We also received a comment from someone in the general public regarding the parking, so I did take a look at. There are over 46 parking stalls. The parking is required per square meter, and they exceeded. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any further questions from PAC to the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there any, could you please come up to the podium? Can you guys please step down and please come up to the podium and state your name for the record, please?
Andrew Dakers. Andrew, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I wrote in with the concern that we've been discussing. My wife and I, we've been a resident of Pettingill, or Lilac Court, for about 6 years now. We're directly behind the property in question. And as was mentioned in the thread, the existing business, has been causing a significant disturbance since its opening in March of 2023. We've gone through a series of steps working originally with the business operator to try to reduce the disturbance. That amounted to interacting with the council and the mayor, and through that, of course, ended up working with the local police through formal noise complaints. Unfortunately, that has not resulted in any sort of decrease in the nuisance. So, hearing at a high level the description of the new business, I mean, that's great. And, I just want to put on the record that myself, my family were very encouraged by the idea of, businesses like this coming into our immediate community. But the noise level and hearing that the new club is intended to be, I guess, a calmer, less disturbing business is certainly something that, I'm excited to hear. I would like to, request that consideration be put in place to put some sort of formal operating condition forward for the new tenant, just to prevent it from over time amounting to the same disturbance that's coming from the existing operation. Because just to paint the picture of what we've been living with now for about 10 months is Monday to Sunday, starting at 6 a.m., when you wake up, it's bang, 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 dump, dump, dump. And that is more or less throughout the day up until about 8:30 p.m. And I can tell you to the minute the time the class starts, when it ends, and that's inside, windows closed, putting the TV on, turning the music up is really the only way you are drowning out that thump, thump, thump. And totally recognizing that the nature of the new club does not seem to be the same nature of the existing club. But again, things change over time. I just, putting another business in that could potentially be producing the same sound that's happening now would really, continue to take a toll on myself, my family, and frankly, the value of our property. I think of, if we were to do an open house, it would strategically be timed around when a class is not occurring, because the first thing someone is going to notice when they get out of the car before they even get in the house is the thumping of that club. And that is the last thing, when you're going to look at a home, that you want to see at an operation that is operating 7 days a week. So again, nothing against the new club at all. I mean, the thought of that coming in, I think that would be a great business opportunity. I think that's a great staple for the community. But to the committee here, what I am asking for is consideration to be given of implementing some sort of formal operating condition that would prevent it from getting out of hand down the road. And Mr. Guest, to answer your question around, is there any specific threshold, specification right now, as mentioned by Ms. Jarvis? Of course, I've reviewed the noise bylaw in the work that I've done. And really right now, it just defines it as a nuisance to the public. So that works in favor or not, I don't know, but it would be nice, I guess, to enforce something that could quantitatively measure, how the disturbance is being measured. Yeah, that's everything.
No, thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Could the applicant please come up to the podium, please? And third and final time, is there anyone else in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Okay, with that being, I think in our recommendation, one of the suggestions, we talked about soundproofing. I think that'll help that substantially for this one. And if the other one, when and if it comes back to PAC, that could be addressed similarly by the sound barrier and sound items that would hopefully help alleviate some of the issues that you're experiencing. So go ahead, Jennifer.
And through you, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but the gentleman from Lilac Court, I just want to reassure you that there is a requirement for a development agreement, which has to be signed by the applicants, the business owners, and that solidifies these conditions. So there's something else that we can go back on. So I have requested that the others come in and submit an application and go through the same process so that we can go through the same sort of thing and try and rectify that for you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's good information to share, that when they come back in, that'll be addressed at that time. With that being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against, or you have any concerns about what the neighbor was talking about? Anything?
I think it was clearly outlined within the email correspondence as well that we've already reviewed. Totally understand we have two small kids, and I totally get it, 100%. And we don't want to cause those type of issues in the community. We want to bring joy, not heartache, so.
All right, thank you. Would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Kendall?
I recommend the Planning Advisory Committee approve the fitness club Bright Light Fitness at 26 Pettingill Road, PID 3025-6200, subject to the following terms and conditions. Number one, the applicant complies with any and all requirements of the Provincial Fire Marshal's Office. Number two, professional soundproofing system is installed to protect neighboring residential properties from sound pollution. Number three, development permits and or building permits are issued by the town prior to any construction. And number four, the applicant enters into a development agreement with the town.
Thank you, Kendall. Can I have a seconder on that, please?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. Any debate on that motion from members of PAC? Mr. Bishop?
I guess on item 2, I guess the professional soundproofing system, how is that going to be, I guess, determined? Who's going to say that, do they add another, layer of drywall to the outside wall? Do they add more insulation? That's, I guess, my question is how is that going to be determined? Is there an engineer, or is my question?
Jennifer?
That's certainly up to the committee. That you can certainly add that as a condition. It came through as a recommendation from the concern, and I guess I could have researched it a little more, but perhaps adding that, a sound engineer be involved.
Kendall? Yep, go ahead, Kendall.
I was assuming the developer would consult an architect, and I think an architect could make recommendations upon soundproofing at probably a minimal cost for the client.
Thank you, Kendall. Mr. Preston?
Item 2 also, Mr. Chairman, I guess my question is, does it apply to the whole unit, or are we just concerned about the exterior wall facing the residential?
Jennifer, anything on that?
My recommendation would be to follow Mr. Mason's suggestion and have an architect perhaps work with it and include the language to minimize the sound pollution to the neighboring properties on Lila Court. And then the architect would have direction as to where the sound should be proofed from.
Thank you, Jennifer. I believe does that help answer your question? Can we add that to item 2 with an architect, Kendall?
Yes.
Oops.
That'd be great, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Get that added in. Okay, with that being, I think we had a seconder on that from Mr. Goslin, I believe. So with that, all that amendments, can we have a vote on those, on that motion, please, with the added of the architectural review of item 2? That motion's carried unanimously. With that being, in 5 to 7 business days, you have a letter in the mail, so please work with the town to have all necessary paperwork, documentation, and what we recommend here for the soundproofing, have someone have a look at that, architect, and hopefully best of luck with your new adventure. You're welcome. With that being, we'll move on to item 7C. That's 19799 Pettingill Road, PID 303-40244 and PID 303-40251. Could the applicant please come up to the podium and state their name for the record, please?
My name is Troy Arsenault.
Mr. Arsenault, we're going to have Jennifer introduce that item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is an application to erect a greenhouse in an institutional zone. An accessory structure or an accessory building in an institutional zone is a discretionary use and does require the approval of the PAC. The property is found at 197, 199 Pettingill Road. Each property is owned by a separate entity. However, one of the property owners does have interest in both lots. In December, the town received a concern that there was development occurring on the lot without a permit. Staff did investigate at first and were able to see from the road what was going on, and then photographic evidence was provided to staff, and then a stop work order was issued for the work. And that occurred on December 13th. I spoke with the landowners. They were very responsive, immediately submitted an application for the variance as well as for the building. However, on December 27th, I received an email suggesting that the work had been completed while under the stop work order. From a planning perspective, having a building straddle a property line is not usually something that we even suggest or recommend. However, in this zone, where there is an interest of one party in both lots, and each lot is zoned institutional, there is a thought that we would be able to permit it as we permitted the fence. If you will recall, PAC approved a fence, wildlife fencing in a similar area, and it did as well cross over the two property lines and was approved, so they have asked for the same accommodation. So one thing I did want to point out for the committee was to consider the ease of moving a fence as opposed to the ease of moving a greenhouse, because ultimately what would happen is if the committee did approve this, that agreement would have to be made between the property owners that if anybody was to change ownership or there was some sort of dispute, that the building would be removed from the property. So I can tell you that 30% of the building is located on 199 Pettingill Road, and approximately 70% of the building is located on 197. Now, the bylaw does not provide any setbacks to property lines or buildings for accessory structures within an institutional zone, and leaves it to the PAC's discretion. See if there's any other pertinent information. Oh, yes, we did receive concern. One concern was received. And has been included as part of your package. There was an expression, they expressed a direct opposition to the project and suggesting that there was no connection between the greenhouse and the daycare facility. However, staff consider it to be an educational component. So that, of course, is up to the committee's discretion. That there was a lack of information provided by the owner, clearly describing to the neighboring properties what can be expected in terms of operation, excessive noise, odors, unsightly conditions, etc. I think I'll just leave it there, Mr. Chair, and I'll allow the applicant to and the committee to chat about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Arsenault, you would have received the same package in the mail. Is there anything you'd like to discuss or add prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you some questions?
No, I can just answer the questions if you have any tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Preston?
Mr. Arsenault, a couple of questions for you. The residents on lot 197, uninhabited at this time?
Yes.
Okay. So my other question is with regards to the greenhouse. It's currently in operation.
No.
You have a heater though, in it, correct?
No.
Well, there was a heater in it on Sunday.
Sorry, what was the question? A heater in it?
Is it not? Yeah.
Nope, there's no heater in it.
Sorry, Kim works at the center as well, and she's the one that's in charge of the program.
Oh, I'm assuming there was a heater running it on Sunday. Sounded like there was a heater running it on Sunday. I drove up to the property and.
No, so that's an inflation kit. So the
Oh, okay.
inflation
I could
kit-
hear something running inside.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's just air that's it's pushing air through
Yeah, to
two
keep you-
layers of plastic.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like a heater from outside.
Okay.
Okay, so my other question is so presently there's nothing growing in there. So what is going to be grown in the greenhouse?
So the greenhouse is basically just going to be a season extension program of our gardening curriculum. So essentially, the building itself is not just for early childhood education, it's also a private school. And we teach kindergarten to grade 5, and part of our outdoor education programming includes gardening. And so the greenhouse is has been put up essentially to extend our season of gardening.
Okay, so you're growing plants, you're growing vegetables?
Yeah, mostly vegetables, probably flowers.
Okay,
But that's,
so my question with regards to the vegetables,
Yeah.
what's the end use of those vegetables?
well, some of it will be used for our healthy lunch program. We have a lot of ideas. We haven't had anything in concrete yet because, of course, we just put the greenhouse up. So the ideas we'll probably throw around with the children in terms of planning. But initially, our thought was that we could take our gardening program and run it from spring all the way through to fall rather than just the short summer season.
Okay, so is there any intention with the produce from the greenhouse to eventually go to sell it at a farmer's market or anything like that?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. So, okay, that's the only questions I have. This question for staff. With regards to property that's zoned institutional, how many accessory buildings are you allowed on a property that's zoned institutional?
I'd have to look that up, Mr. Preston, if you can give me just a moment.
All right, we'll get back to that one. Any other questions from members of PAC to the applicant? I do have one. It was in our minutes that there was a stop order issued and that didn't happen. Was there a reason why that didn't happen when the town comes in with a stop order?
Sorry, the gentleman that I was looking after putting it up for us, it was a miscommunication. We found it on Friday not to do it, and I wasn't able to reach him. By Sunday, it was done. Literally, it was just putting the plastic over the top of it is what he did to finish it. The metal structure itself, the temporary structure that's inside, just gets covered with a layer of plastic, rolled out plastic, and that's what he did on the weekend just to protect it. Wasn't done intentionally.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Brent?
So I guess my other question to follow up on what Mr. Lamont has said, you're in an industry that's heavily regulated by the province, lots of rules and regulations. Why would you not, and you've been to PAC before with regards.
PAC many times. What I thought it was just a temporary structure for the children to put, for a greenhouse. It's not a permanent building. I didn't change any of the land. I literally, children had expressed interest in it.
Well, the land
Located it, put it up.
has been changed.
The what?
The land has been changed. It looked like you went in with the,
No, I cut the brush down that was there and just cleared a pad. I didn't cut any trees down or any of that. We're a nature-based program that
no,
runs
I
on
understand that, but it looked like someone went in with an excavator.
Went in with a small skid steer and flattened it out to put the base in for the greenhouse, yes. But I didn't take any hills down or cut any trees down or any of that. It was just flattening it out to make sure it was usable for the children.
Thank you. Jennifer, were you able to find that yet?
Just about.
Okay. Any other members of PAC have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Goslin.
what does it mean, a temporary use? How long is a temporary use is a temporary use?
I'm not sure why you're asking the question, Mr. Goslin.
Well, if it's a temporary use and the permanent use, there's quite a difference. Temporary use could be for a 6-month period, I'm assuming here, or guessing a period of time, while a permanent use is there forever, for a long time. So I understand this application is for temporary use. So does the applicant has to intention to take it down in 6 months from now?
It was, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Goslin. It was not applied for as a temporary use. It was said that it would be a structure that would be continued to be in the location that the PAC chose. I think originally the intent was to move the building around on the lot, and that was an ask. However, it's my understanding that this was going to remain on the lot and therefore would not be a temporary use.
Yeah,
Mr. Arsenault just mentioned. Mr. Arsenault just mentioned that would be a temporary use.
Sorry,
No, it's discretional use. I think that's what the application was, Mark, discretional use.
I apologize. A permanent structure to me is something on a concrete foundation with wooden walls, like a house.
It's a movable
It's a
structure.
greenhouse. I'm sorry. It's just the wording for me, but it's not a permanent structure. I guess it's a greenhouse.
It can be completely disassembled within a day.
Yeah.
Okay. Jennifer?
Is there going to be?
Oh, sorry,
Another
Mark, go
question,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, is there going to be lighting 24 hours a day inside the greenhouse, or just no lighting whatsoever?
No.
No lighting, Mark. No lighting.
Is that what the answer was? No lighting?
No
No
lighting.
lighting.
There will be no lighting in there.
And is the greenhouse going to be heated?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Jennifer?
Yes, and there are no restrictions for the number of accessory buildings within the institutional zone. It is very vague on accessory buildings and structures. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any further questions from members of PAC to the applicant? None being, oops, Brenda?
Not a question, more of a comment. You build a French without a building permit, and then you come to PAC to get that rubber stamped. So then you build a greenhouse, stop work order, bring it to PAC, so we're just supposed to stamp that. You knew you had a building permit because you need it for your fence. You should have gotten one for your greenhouse. Maybe you could consider combining all their lots. So they're all one PID number. And then you would not be over 2 PID numbers. Anyway, I don't support this.
Thank you, Brenda.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question.
Sure, Mark.
Oh, Jennifer, like in the concern in the document that we received, it says recommending doubling the fee is recommended. What is the fee and what is the doubling of the fee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the doubling of the fee would be the permit fee, and the permit fee would, a doubling of the permit fee would result in $100.
So $100 to doubling the fee for someone that knew all along that he needed a building permit to start with, and we So I'm concerned with creating a precedent here that anybody can start and do whatever they want. And the only penalty they're gonna have is gonna be doubling the fee, which is $100. So that's my concern that I have. Mr. Arsenault knew full well, just like,
I'd like to respond to that if I could, please. I did not know full well until it was brought to our attention, and as soon as it was brought to my attention, we addressed it, applied for the application, did everything that was asked of us. I did not do this with any intent. When we knew about it, we followed what we were asked to do. It's as simple as that. And I don't like being accused of doing something and knowing full well that I was not being right doing it. That's not the case.
Mr. Arsenault, I'm not accusing you. What I'm saying is, you receive a letter from the town, stop order, and the work continue. And I know you said earlier that the contractor just decided to go along with it and do it. But if I receive a work order, I would contact immediately my contractor and stop the work.
Thanks, Mark. Any other questions from PAC? Kendall?
Yes, I was just looking at, I apologize, I didn't get to go see the greenhouse, but can you just describe the construction? Is it, there's no concrete foundation, right?
No, the base itself is on 6x6 posts that lay on the ground.
Right.
And then the structure is screwed to that.
Okay.
So it's not screwed to the ground, it's not a concrete to the ground, it's literally just 6x6 posts that run along the sides.
Right.
The outside of the structure goes down on top of that and gets screwed to that 6x6 base.
Yeah,
It's a
so
simple-
other than the materials, it takes roughly a day for 2 men to build it, or
I didn't build
Couple-
it, but the gentleman.
a couple days to build it?
A couple of days for the guys that know what they're doing to assemble that.
And you intend to use it all year long, is that, even in the wintertime? That's correct? I think I understood
Potentially,
that.
Yeah, we'd like
Yeah.
to be able to do some winter growing, yeah.
And
For sure, fall, spring through fall, certainly.
And it's not possible for, like, the lay of the land or the change in elevation to have it on one pit or the other? Was there a strategic reason you placed it in that particular area?
There were a few factors. One was the location for the children, two was access to water, and third was the wind. It's a very protected area.
Okay.
There's 12 acres in total on that property, and there's some pretty secluded areas.
What would be the impacts if you, like, ignoring the labor long-term, what would be the impacts of moving it to a slightly different location that?
It doesn't work with how we have the property laid out for the use. There's a lot of trees on the property still. There's a lot of big areas that just aren't, they're not conducive to what this is. We needed someplace that was protected, someplace that wasn't, highly visible. It's in the middle of the 12 acres. You're hard pressed to see it from anywhere unless you're on the property. So it's, yeah, so it's not something that we want to move. That was the spot that we had picked just for the factors, of what we were going to do with it.
And obviously you're operating a school type institution, so like what is the long-term business plan? Is this like a 3-year adventure or like 20 years or?
Just depends on where the children take it.
Yeah, okay. All right, okay, perfect, thanks for answering my question.
Brenda?
Just one quick question. You said the lot is 12 acres. Is that all the PID numbers together, or is that just one PID number?
It's in total what we own there on that. Jennifer could speak more to that, but the full property is 12 acres. Part of it is the 30%, I believe, is owned differently than the 70 that the remaining part of the greenhouse is on. It's just how it's laid out. But the owners are all the same people. Myself and my wife own the property. We own the private school.
So why don't you combine the two PID numbers and make it one property? And then you wouldn't have a problem with being across the board or the lines and stuff like that.
It's a learning curve. We were just getting to this point today. I'm not sure if that was an option when we purchased that property, but it's not something we've looked at the way it is laid out now.
Thank you. Any further questions from PAC to the applicant? Yep.
If the applicant went away and talked to a lawyer about consolidating these two properties, would the issue somewhat go away for them?
Through you, Mr. Chair. They would still need the approval of PAC because the structure is a discretionary use for the bylaw. But in terms of its placement on the lot, yes. However, the reason it wasn't recommended by staff just to consolidate the lots is that the ownership is in different names. So that ownership would have to come into similar name, like the same name, before they can be consolidated together. One is owned by the school, a private number, the school, and one is owned by yourself and your wife. So those would have to be the same owners, and then it could be consolidated.
Thank you. Is there anyone online or in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? As you can see in our recommendation, there's two options, and if PAC has other options, please bring them forward. Member of PAC want to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions, please? Brenda.
I would go with option B, that the PAC deny approval of a discretionary use to traverse the property lines of 197 Pettingill Road, PID 303402444, and 199 Pettingill Road, PID 303402551, subject to the following conditions. The item be tabled until such a time a revised site plan is submitted to the town, identifying the greenhouse as being isolated to civic address 197 Pettingill Road, PID 303402444, with a setback value of at least 6 meters from any property line or main building on the lot.
Thank you, Brenda. Is there a seconder on that motion?
Mr. Chairman Markey, I'll second that.
Okay, any debate on that motion? None being, would PAC like to have, can we have a vote on that motion, please? To deny the application and to be tabled. That motion's been carried unanimously. That application's been denied and will be tabled at such time that a revised site plan will be resubmitted to the town. In 5 to 7 business days, you have a letter in the mail, so please work with the town to have all necessary paperwork and documentation in place. Thank you. Thank you for your time. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 7D, 17 William Court. Could the applicant please come up to the podium, state your name for the record, and we're going to have Jennifer introduce that item. Go ahead, Jennifer, before we get to introductions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is an application to expand a building, a main building at 17 William Court. And 17 William Court is part of the development of the, the Millennium Drive Development Scheme Bylaw number 17. And as such, it does require a site plan review by the development officer. And in that, the development officer requires the comments of PAC. So Will also require a very, very small variance to the elevation. Section 6F of zoning bylaw 38 requires that all new structures be placed at least 1 meter above the final center grade of the street abutting. When I looked at the site plan, there was a very small 10 centimeter difference, but I thought it would be best to capture it this evening and provide the variance. So the subject lot is 4,103 square meters and is business park commercial zoning. The applicants are requesting approval to expand the building. I think my report said in one spot it was 158 square meters. Unfortunately, that was an error. It's actually 144.7 square meters of an addition, and it is for storage. So we just asked PAC to provide comment and support the development officer. As you can see in the report, it does meet all of the items found in section 7A in terms of conforming with municipal plans, setbacks to principal buildings and to the street. There's no concerns with traffic being increased. The lot size does meet and is capable of receiving this expansion. The parking is not expected to expand or exceed what's already currently available. The one thing I would point out is there's a ski can that shows on the site plan, and staff would consider that to be a structure, and therefore separate development permit would need to be applied for that. I'm open to any, we did send off a notification to neighboring properties with 100 meters, and we have not received any concerns. And I did mention the CCAN. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jennifer. Could you please state your name for the record, please?
Katrina Richard with Bird Construction.
Okay, and
Curtis Schnell from Bird Construction.
And Brian Susi, building owner.
okay. You folks would have received the same package we did in the mail. Anything you'd like to add or discuss prior to members of PAC or members of the public asking you some questions? No? Great. Any members of PAC have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Bishop.
Is the CCAN staying or is it going after the expansion?
We're in construction and the CCAN comes and goes. It's not a permanent structure. It doesn't stay there often. It's just in between projects right now.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant from members of PAC? None being, is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Is there anyone in the audience or online willing to speak for or against this item? Third and final time, is there anyone in the audience willing to speak for or against this item? None being, would a member of PAC like to put a motion for or against with terms and conditions? Mr. Bishop.
I'll put a motion forward that PAC approve the expansion to the main building for the purpose of the additional storage at 17 William Court, PID 301-68975, and approve 0.10 meter variance to section 6F, subject to the following terms and conditions. 1, a building permit is issued prior to construction. 2, a development permit is issued for the installation of the CCAN identified on the site plan. And 3, the landowner enter into a development agreement with the town.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Can I have a seconder on that, please? Brenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Brenda. Any debate in that motion? Brent?
Mr. Chairman, just a question on item 2. My understanding is the CCAN on site is just a temporary, it's in and out.
Yeah.
So do we need a development plan for that, Jennifer?
It's a rental unit that routinely returns to site. It's at the back of the building.
That's what I'm asking Jennifer. So Jennifer, where that's that CCAN's used for project work, so basically it's on and off the site, it's not a permanent.
Then we wouldn't require the development
so we can
permit,
take
where it
that-
showed up on the site plan. However, I
Yeah.
thought that it was
Yeah.
going to be permanent. Thank you.
So so should item 2 be removed from the motion then?
Okay, Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you. We'll strike that off, that the agreement for the CCAN to be removed. With that being, can we have a vote on that, please? That motion's carried unanimously. 5 to 7 business days, have a letter in the mail. Please work with town to have all necessary documentation, paperwork in place, and best of luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. With that being, we'll move on to item 8, information items. Can we have a motion to receive and file? Before we do that, I just got one little question there. There's a PAC summary. It's interesting. The total numbers seem to be dropped quite a bit in 2023, but down from their half of what they were. I don't know if that's some stuff's being done with the develop officer. Yeah, so are the overall numbers similar to where they always been? Excellent, perfect. With that being, can I have a motion to receive and file, please? Oh, Jennifer, you want, no, you're good? Mr. Guest,
So moved.
can I have a seconder on that, please? Brent?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can we have a vote to receive and file? Items for discussion. That motion's carried unanimously. With that being, we'll move to item number 9, adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Bishop?
So moved.
Can I have a seconder on that, please? Brenda?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion carried. The meeting is adjourned. For Tuesday, January 9th.